Okay, so let's look at like basically ep9 million, which is the primary setup idea. Not even EP, because EPs don't happen often, right? If you depend on EPs, you are going to have like in a tough time. So EP9 million is the primary setup idea, and a variation of EP9 million, EP9 million, or a EP9 million delayed reaction EP9 million, or sugar babies, which are all variation of the same idea, which is basically where you have the central idea, and which is what is the central idea behind EP9 million? Central idea is very simple, right? And basically, and that central idea is what this meeting, which is a short meeting, is about, which is like you need to be convinced about it, right? And it's not a question of me being convinced, right? This is my setup, which I created. You need to be convinced about it, right? So here, this is the total picture, like above average volume surge starts big moves. Now, this is a claim which I am making that above average volume starts big moves, right? And basically, now, is it true? That is what you have to, uh, something which you have to know, right? And something which you have to believe, right? And it means like, God exists, and God like, gave me EP9 million setup, then I go and pray to the God, right? And I go to the church, or I go and like, offer him cherries, right? Basically, but if God doesn't exist, right, then I don't go to the church. So same way, what you need to know is the first step. First step, if you want to trade EP9 million, first step. What is the first step which you need to? You need to check this hypothesis. Whether the big moves are precipitated, or you validate that hypothesis or validate this idea, because I all that I might be telling you all lies, right? And basically, so you need to validate this. How can you validate this? So a very simple step which I want you people to do. Today is 22nd, right? And basically of January, and the market has had around probably around 18 or 19 trading days since the 1st of January, right? And what you do is you take those stocks, you take the universe sans ETF, which is basically US common stocks and American depositories. You can order ETF also, doesn't really matter, and price is about $1, right? And sort it by YTD, that means stocks from the first trading session, which was on 2nd of January, to today that have gone up the most. Are you on the same wavelength on this? Right? Now, if you do that, what you will find is MLEC is the stock which is number one. It is up 2,600%. AHMA is 651, and so on and so forth. And then what you do is look at the top 25 stocks, or look at the top 30 stocks, or look at the top 20, whatever number of stocks you want to look at, and see if their move started with that kind of a volume, right? Here, this didn't start with that kind of a volume, but here on this day it made 125% or whatever percent move, and that was the EP9 million. Here also, so here, how did this move start? At the start of the move, what happened? The VWAP went into alligator indicator, and the 10-day moving average moved over 50-day moving average, or 50-day moving average went and took a bath, or like you see what started this move, EP9 million, right? This is another stock which had a move of like an hundreds of percent. What started the move? Here, what start like that was the 1 day move of like some hundreds of percent, right? And again, move started with 4% million, but there was a this thing LVLU. What started this big move? 9 million EP. Here in the last 2 days, this stock has come from nowhere and made a move of around 400%. What happened at the beginning of this thing? BNAI, what happened? IBRX, how did this move start? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 million back to back. SPHL, how did this move start? Corvus, how did this move start? And so on and so forth. And this is the first task, first order task which you need to do. Because if you think, if you find that you look at stocks which made the biggest move, started their move with 9 million EP, then what we will do is you will put Ichimaku cloud or some uh, other kind of things, right? And I mean, it's like you can put on your chart the uh, let's see what all we can put Ichimaku cloud, right? And we can also put like basically some other clouds. We can put like uh, all kinds of things we can do, right? And basically, and like that will tell us this is the start of a move, or what will tell us that this is the start of the move. Clearly, if there is an explosive move going to be happening, explosive moves start with a big bang volume. So if that is the case, and if you are interested in finding big moves, then what is the thing which should be your primary focus, or what should be your primary setup idea? Now, if you say, "Oh, these are all low price stocks and all," let's look at say S&P 500 stocks or Nasdaq 100 stocks, and let's start with Nasdaq 100 and the stocks which have made a big move, right? And basically, what started this big move? Bollinger Band twisted themselves into VWAP, and when VWAP and Bollinger Band crossed each other, then Intel started its move, and then it went up. And there was also MACD and RSI divergence, and also like the on balance volume was also going up, or it started with a 9 million EP. This move, how did it start? And this is important, right? And it means like all jokes apart. If you see that like basically the biggest winning stock for the year, right? In Nasdaq 100 started their move with 9 million EP, then what should you be looking at every day? If you study the top 10 or 20 stocks here and 80% of them had 9 million EP, that's your primary goal, right? And then if you see and if you can like wrap your head around it, right? Uh, S&P 500, the biggest winning stock is SNDK. How did the move start? With a 9 million EP, right? Moderna is the number 2 stock. How did this move start? In the middle of the night when nobody was like awake, only Trump was sitting on his golden toilet and sending out tweets, and then the stock suddenly came and made this, or like how did this move start? 9 million EP. 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 There will be some which are not without 9 million, but most of the moves, majority are with 9 million. So if I had to capture a move, what should I be doing? Right? And that's the question. First question, which is to prove to yourself. This is very important, right? Because conviction, can you get a second hand conviction? Is it possible to get a second hand conviction? Now, if you turn the picture around and you look at the flip side of this, the stocks which are down the most, right? And look at it, and you see that the one which went down, they didn't have 9 million EP. So 9 million EP is not necessarily the best idea for finding stocks which are down, but there are still also the stocks which are down are not so completely overwhelmingly 9 million EP. 40, 50% of them might be 9 million EP. But like the one which are on the bullish side, it's almost invariably something, if it is going to go up, is likely to be the one which has a 9 million EP. So if that is the case, what should you be doing every day? Is to focus on 9 million EP. And then second observation which you have to do is like when you see these 9 million EPs here in the universe and CTM, and when you sort it by YTD, and then you see that you look at the stocks which have made the biggest move, right? Uh, like say AHMA is a good example of a stock which has made a biggest move, second biggest move, right? And basically, which is with a 9 million EP. And then you go and look at whether it made that move because of earnings sales, because you all the time here, you look stocks which have the best earnings or which have a can slim criteria are the one which make the biggest move, or stocks with 2 quarters in a row, 3 quarters, 4 quarters in a row of like, or which meets like EPS rating. This stock has a EPS rating of 34, right? It has a group RS rating of 13, right? So if you are focusing on sectors, the group RS rating is 13, accumulation distribution rating is C plus, right? Composite rating is 56, and before it made this move, the RS line was in toilet, right? The RS line was in toilet. So if you know this, and this is only for the first stock, and you do this for each of these stocks, what are you going to find? You do this for EVTV, what are you going to find? You do it for roller, you do for LVL, you keep doing it. What are you going to find? What you are going to find is 90% of the stocks which made big move had no earnings, no sales, no relative strength line, RS line making new high or things like that. They were just complete dogs. They are unadulterated stories, right? They were dogs. They were like in a complete piece of shit, right? And basically, they were like in some story saying, "Look, and it's like, and I don't even know what is this stock has. Must be having some story, right? Or brand engagement network. Does it have earnings or sales, or it had some sort of a catalyst which was like a story, right? Here, brand engagement network doesn't even like and have a sales. So forget about profit, right? And if you don't have sales, how are you going to have profit also? So all these are story bullshit stories, right? And IBRX bullshit story, SPHL some bullshit story, right? So if this is the reality, either what you read in books or what you see on Twitter is the reality, or this is the reality. Which one is the reality? Tell me. I can show you on Twitter 1,000 posts which will tell you focus on stocks with good earnings, good sales, or which are making relative strength, or focus on this thing, sectors, right? Did this stock sector was like in the top 25 or something, when it made this 306% move? Was the sector in like anything? No, right? They just like they just have a this thing, right? Yeah, this sector was in the toilet. This sector was in toilet. Industrial metal, basic material sector before this move happened. So again, these lot of learning in the stock market is about having this first hand knowledge, where you acknowledge what is the reality versus what people are telling you is the reality, right? And basically, so once you acknowledge that, the path forward is very easy. And what is the path forward once you acknowledge that? Path forward is very easy. The path forward is to focus on something which you yourself found out to be true, right? Something which you found out is true is what you focus on. So this is why I'm doing this on Thursday, right? Now this is the task for you for the coming weekend. And what is the task which you have? Is to go through this, right? And somebody might say, oh, this is just like in a 10 days, 20 days, that is why it is like that. But this is not true, right? And okay, so go month by month, every 10 days, every 15 days, by 15 days, right? And basically go into like, and say something like custom date sort and look for the same thing. So you go into spy, right? And then look at like, and say what happened in the last 15 days of December and see what happened there, right? So this is like, and basically say, um, we can adjust the date later, right? And basically, so 12, uh, 15, right? And basically 15 to, let's say, the end of the year, right? And sort and put a custom date sort. And like this, you keep doing it for the entire year. And then if you see that like in the stocks which showed up in the last 15 days also had 9 million EP, right? The stock which showed up there also had 9 million EP. The stock which showed up, this one is the only one which didn't had 9 million EP. This one also had a 9 million EP. This one also 9 million EP. So then like, and basically you're like, and once you understand this, right, you're like Borat in American supermarket. What is this? This is cheese. What is this? This is cheese. What is this? This is cheese, right? So if you want to catch a lot of cheese or get a lot of cheese, what is your conclusion after this? Conclusion is very clear that focus on 9 million EP if you want big moves. And not only that, right? Not only that, what is the other thing which a study like this should force you to look at? Is it should force you to abandon a lot of things which you are doing, right? A lot of junky things which you are doing, like in a looking at things like in a sector ranking, and it means like in a how will you find a move like this? Basically by sector ranking, or you find the moves by focusing on what is at the beginning of the move, right? Or like in a putting in some useless indicator on your chart and like looking at them and staring at them 1,000 times in a day versus having the right mindset. This should simplify your trading, right? It should simplify your trading. You should clearly have know, look at a lot of things which you're doing, or in some of you cases, because I know you keep emailing me, you keep sending me messages. Some of you are like audacious enough to call me out of nowhere and ask me all these things. What you are doing, 90% of what you are doing is junk. Simplify the process, right?
Hey, EG,
Simplify
I
the
have a
process.
question.
Yes.
This is Eric. I did the SIPS guide number 8 a couple of years ago, and I've been doing this every day since. I noticed you've been using trade ideas to do a 9 million scan. Would you mind going through the settings on your trade ideas, a window for 9 million? I have a couple different windows I've made. And is it just simply 9 million in that day
So
for
this
that
is
new
like
window, or do you have settings beyond that?
here, look at the
Yeah, that
screen.
one.
Look at the screen.
Yeah,
Okay, this is heartbeat, which is like which gives you these numbers, right? If you have to have the numbers, you need this heartbeat scan. This is what this is looking at. The stock should be up more than 25 cents. Price should be about $3 and 8.9 million. Right? The heartbeat matters because without the heartbeat, you will not get this, right? Rest is all what? This is just duplication, right? And because again, these are the total number of things which you see in that particular scan, which is like in a stock is up more than 25 cents, $3
yeah,
plus, and 8.9 million, which is what your scan for ep9 million is, right?
right. Yeah, so pretty simple. It's just the heartbeat. Um, it's probably the most important thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
And
that's the
that's 100. Is that at 100? When it gets
that's
to
just
100, it turns
calculating
red.
how many time it showed up in this scan, right? That thing is
Yeah.
just
So
telling you which one is like the one which has like the more momentum, right? And the one which has lower value doesn't have momentum, but like anything is going to everything is going to show up like with lot of momentum, right? And this is the only one which doesn't have that like in 100. That doesn't really matter. I'm just uh, there because I want to know visually, right? A lot of these are visual tools to know what has momentum, right?
yeah, I've
Means
taken the heartbeat and changed the colors
yeah,
because
you
you can
can
do
do
some
that.
other categories
Yeah, you can do
and
that.
made it
Like
lower, so it's
yeah,
yeah,
that you
different
can do that.
signal.
And
All
this
right,
is
thank you.
this is the flip
That's great.
side of that, which is like in a same thing, but like you're like just saying that should be down like in a price 3 and this should be minus 25 and 8.9. That's it.
And you were saying the down is not as important for the EPs, or is that you think that? I mean, I don't sell short really on the
And I'm
EPs.
not saying that. What I'm saying is that look, if you're looking for charts, right? It's the market is not a mirror image, right? And of the long side.
Right, there's less shorts.
Let's
Yeah,
no.
there's less.
A stock can start going down without having a 9 million EP. If you look at the flip side, you are not going to find look 9 million EP as a good way of finding shorts. But
Okay,
9 million EP is a very good way to find longs.
great.
The
Thank you.
biggest move
That's
downside
awesome. That's very
moves
helpful.
doesn't have EP9 million, right? Most of them don't have EP9 million. So, which is again the asymmetrical nature of the market. Selling versus buying is a totally different phenomena. So you can't just reverse what you're doing, and that is what matters. Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's what it is. Okay. Yeah, if you want to see a short, it is still going to be like 4% breakout, but it doesn't have to have a high volume. But like 4% breakout still is like basically something which again like I see a lot of people on Twitter and all criticizing and saying oh but the reality is that you look you can criticize all that you want but every one of these stocks which made a big move started its big move with what? How did this stock start its big move? By having a 4% breakout, right? And which is just like even if you have a little bit of a common sense and mathematical understanding, if something is going to make a big move, how can it not have a 4% breakout and not show up in your 4% breakout scan? Tell me, right? And that's like in a basic maths. It's not even like you don't even need to look at that as a means that's like as elementary as like beginner level math, right? Okay, any questions? It's very important, it's extremely important to have clear understanding of what you are trading and why you are trading. If you don't have that, all other things like just copying scans and just doing things, it doesn't make sense, right? And you need to know what you're doing is really valid, right? You need to know what is valid, right? Again, if you have a question like this, ki what is the holding period for 9 million EP? You can just look at these 9 million EP and see most of them go up for how many days. They might make 600% move, but they make 600% move in how many days? Yeah, I know people are like obsessed with holding stocks for longer term, right? This method is not for people who are obsessed with holding stocks for longer term, right? Because those stocks are not going to be showing up in 9 million EP. If you're going to hold something for longer term, look at like this 9 million EP and 3 to 5 days, right? Means, is there anything wrong with like in a 3 to 5 days hold period where the stock makes the biggest move and after that it just poops rather than holding it for so on and on and on? Again, every single thing, right? Whoever says, whether I say or any other person says, first rule of trading is validate whether that is true. You go on Twitter, which is primary source of information for most traders nowadays, or YouTube, and you see something, somebody making some claim, always see for yourself with your own eyes. If you can see, right, whether that is true. Because you can only trade what you see, right? You can only trade what you believe in. And if you don't believe that, and if you don't do this work, you're always going to, you will not never have a conviction, right? And you will not even in the morning start looking at 9 million EP. You will not even like be running a scan called 9 million EP. You might be spending some time doing some anticipation or something. Will any anticipation scan find these explosive moves? Tell me. Is there any point in spending your time doing anticipation or doing other things or to look at like any just this thing? And these are questions which, when you ask this question, then the answer to those questions is going to be the setup idea, which will become your primary setup idea. That's why if you want to make EP 9 million as your setup idea, start by doing a deep dive on stocks which have gone up in the last 15 days and see what happened. How did they start their move? What was the starting thing? Were they cats? Were they dogs? Were they liquid lava? If 90% of them or more than 95% are dogs, then just saying I don't like dogs is not a good enough answer, right? If 95% of these are dogs, or 99%, maybe probably 98% will be dogs, right? And then you say, okay, I don't like dogs, I'm scared of dogs. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, right? I like only cats. I have a again, like you're asking questions like this, what I do after running EP9 million scan, I have a set of conditions, right? And I can put them in cats, dogs, liquid lava, and then each one has a context and a qualifying criteria. So if it is a dog, is it a theme which is like there are qualifiers, right? So but that is really the next stage in understanding a setup. First stage is to like just have a basic understanding, which is what like some of the people have problem with, right? And you look at stocks. When you see this EP9 million, you'll also see like basically these are all coming from some random sectors, and every one of these stocks, which is like makes this big move, has one characteristic besides being 9 million EP. And what is that characteristic? That they were neglected, right? They were neglected. They were neglected. Uh, Second, third, 9 million EP doesn't matter, right? What is really is like the neglect, right? Something which is completely neglected is going to make big move. As against this, everybody is spending their time, right? On what? They're spending their time on stocks with momentum. They're looking at 52-week high. They are looking at relative momentum, and all of these stocks. The other thing, right? There is not a day goes by when I do not get a message saying you do not use ATR, ADR, or whatever you people are so enamored by in your trading. But tell me, how does the past ADR or ATR of this stock matter? Does it really matter? And all these people, they're just like an a, oh, you don't use ATR, you don't use. Tell me, how is the past ATR of this stock relevant once a catalyst comes in, right? If it has a 9 million EP, do you really need to know that? Or like the very fact that it has a 9 million and gap, all the past doesn't matter, right? Everything is like they are lagging, right? And they are now, this stock will have a very high ATR and ADR. And after that, you are trying to find in it, the move is happened. By the time it will have a high ATR and ADR, it's already made a move. And again, why does this happen? Why do you think this happens? What do you do when you do like an if you do this deep dive, my friend, right? If you do this deep dive, you will have answers to many of your questions because most of these 9 million EPs are apparent for people who know what how 9 million EP work. Most of these 9 million EPs will be apparent when most of them will be even apparent in the morning before the even like before the market opens because they'll be in your process called NTRT, MTRT or SIPs, right? Because if something like this is gapping up like this, if you do your NTRT, MTRT, you would know what is the catalyst, right? That's the thing, right? Again, means like all these things will start making sense to you. How why you should do NTRT, MTRT, and SIPs, and why you should look at stocks which are up in pre-market because most of the almost all these 9 million EPs, right? Those of you know what you're talking about, right? Was it not apparent to you that EVTV had a catalyst and it was gapping up even before? And what was the catalyst before the market open? Many of these make 9 million volume before the market opens, right? Again, same problem, right? And basically, some people cannot be helped, right? And basically means like it's just I give up, right? And basically, I'm telling you, NTRT, MTRT, if you do, you will get into like early, right? And the very nature of any one of these 9 million EP is going to be what? Because they have a catalyst, they are going to make these big moves, right? And basically, so your objective is to find the 9 million EP before it hits the 9 million screen. Now, if you cannot find it, then there is a variation of the method which is delayed reaction EP or other things, right? So those of you who are really like got those of you who really are serious about finding the big moves, even if you miss the big moves in the beginning of the year, right? Doesn't matter. You just have to catch a couple of these moves in the next 12, 11 months, right? And in order to catch them, what is your primary way of, if you want to find, if you say, look, I want to catch big moves, what is your primary way of catching big moves? And that is the answer you need to find. Everything else is secondary, right? And once you answer questions like this, right, it will completely change your way of looking at the stocks. It will change the way of looking at how you go about organizing your day. It will change your view about what you should pay attention to. It will give you a lot of mind clarity. And then once you have that mind clarity, please go and tell everybody to focus on stocks which are in the leading sector. Tell them to focus on stocks where relative strength line is making a new high. Focus on stocks where the VWAP is like in a going up, right? And a focus on stocks which are like in a near 52-week high. Focus on stocks which are creating Darvas boxes. Focus on stocks which are like in a creating cup with handle at the top of the range, right? True market leaders. Your job should be to find the true market leader before and sell it to the people who buy true market leaders. Isn't that how you should be trading? Right. And that's all there is to this game. When there is a clarity in the upper chamber, execution will become easy. If you have a clarity in your upper chamber, FOMO will go away. If you have a clarity, then you will organize right scans, you'll have the process, you'll get up in the morning, and the moment you get up, you'll start looking at what is gapping up and try and find out, right? See what volume is there. If something is gapping up and it has made 3 million in pre-market, don't you think that it is going to show up in a 9 million scan by the end of the day? Right. So think about it. And there are many stocks which hit 9 million EP in pre-market itself, right? This SXTP had already done like it did 194 million. It had already done 30 million in the morning before the market opened itself, right? In pre-market, it had done 30 million shares. So where you should focus, that's the most important thing. Where do you want to focus? And that's why, as far as I'm concerned, 9 million EP is the primary setup. All the variations of EP 9 million are just like any other variant. So that is what it is. Okay, any questions?
Hello, excuse
Yes.
me. May I
Uh,
have a question? So,
yes.
as you mentioned, 9 million EP today is one of the candidates, CRML, right?
Mm-hmm,
So the critical metal.
mm-hmm,
So, I just typed my question, but not fully. I'm sorry about that. But
mm-hmm.
when we try to catch up this kind of candidate, should we try to buy this or the leverage ETF? So, usually the trading volume of the leverage ETF is more volatile. But in order to maximize our profit, do you think that if for the day trader or short term, so which one you will suggest us to take a position on?
You can take a triple ETF or a double ETF, which is going to give you more leverage, right? So if I
Yeah,
see something which has a more leverage, I always take that instrument, right? But sometimes they don't have enough volume. So if there is enough volume on the triple ETF or double ETF, take the double ETF.
take the double ETF is your
Hmm.
recommendation, right?
Hmm. And while
Okay.
looking at this 9 million EP also, right? Is this the kind
Yeah.
of 9 million EP you want to focus on? Or you want to focus on a 9 million EP, which is like on a stock which is completely neglected and happens? What is the probability of this 9 million EP making a big move versus something which is neglected and shows a EP 9 million now?
My understanding may be related to the process of material industry, military industry, weapons.
That's all bullshit, man. Like that's all bullshit, right? And basically,
Uh,
any stock which has been discovered by the market, already discovered, and which has
yeah.
already made a move of 140%, the probability of it making another big move is substantially low because the story is already come in, right? And basically, so given
So
a
you mean
choice,
to extend it, right?
that means it
So
will
you
still
mean it's
work
to,
as a, it might work as a
yeah.
just a regular breakout, right? But what you want to
Okay.
see is always when
Yeah.
you are looking at EP 9 million is the new virgin, right? And not the one which is already married.
Okay. So the young lady, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. It means again you're asking me question AK, which is like a fundamental question, right? And if a stock in pre-market has 3 million volume, right? And it is gapping up, what are you going to be doing? You will find out what is the catalyst, right? You will find out whether this is a theme, whether there is a catalyst, what is the catalyst, and you'd already made a decision to buy it, right? So that decision will be driven by what is called as a process, which is a setup process, which is like when you see something which is gapping up like that made 3 million volume, what you do is you go see whether it is a cat, whether it is a dog, whether it meets your criteria of being neglected, right? See if it has a low capitalization, see if it has a high short interest, right? And then just like uh, I don't know, in your case, maybe you're married or something. So after you do this, like uh, in triplicate, right? And I take a paper, get a carbon paper, make three triplicate copies, and send it to your wife or somebody else, or maybe mother-in-law to get her permission to buy it, right? Means this is what this whole process is, right? And what are we doing in NTRT, MTRT? What are you doing in the morning when you get up? You're doing NTRT, MTRT and SIPs. And if it is a good SIPs or it has a catalyst, it's given that you want to enter that thing, right? Right? If he's Indian, he doesn't only need permission from wife and mother-in-law, he will also need it from one of his gurus like Sadguru or some Sri Sri Ravi Shankar or someone else also, right? And astrology, right? And basically, again, if you're asking me this kind of a question, this session is not about your whether this is a buy or that is a buy, right? And basically, what you need to know is what is the catalyst, right? Again, any stock which shows up in 9 million EP, what is the process for selecting 9 million EP? See, if GitLab is showing up, what is the first thing you need to do? You need to go and research and find out what is the reason why GitLab is going up, right? Obviously, GitLab is not something which is a story stock, or it is not, it has a stock which has a real. So you find out what is the catalyst, right? You find out what is the strength of the, means that is the whole process, right? Of when you see a 9 million EP, GitLab announced the general availability of Duo agent platform AI tool have been rapidly improving development, blah, 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 blah. So it has something right now. So based on this catalyst and what GitLab has been around, do you think it's a buy? If it is a buy, then you buy it, right? You look at an X-ray, you look at things. Means there is an entire process and a guide somebody has done, right? And basically, do you know that there is a guide, something like this, which exists somewhere, right? And basically, so if I look at the X-ray, it looks like a shit, right? And basically, so then what may happens? The short interest is 3.8 million. Flow capitalization of the stock is something. So does this really fall into a category of story stocks, or it falls into a category of cats, right? So you go through a systematic process and then decide. You look and who is this making noise, right? And I didn't ask you to play conch here, right? So then you make a decision, right? And basically means, and that is what is called as a setup, and that is what is called as a method, right? How did we select these stocks? By using that kind of a logic, right? NVTS, what is the setup? What is the reason? This is just a story stock, right? And basically, or CDU, there is a catalyst, massive contract win. So that is why that is the thing, right? And AST, there must be some catalyst. I didn't know, like here. That's a sector or a story stock, right? And basically, and so on and so forth. if you are not like if you don't do NTRT, MTRT, and you expect to make money, means that's a critical to the process, right? And I means if, uh, how can you means again but you cannot really it's integral to the process, right? It's like saying, look, if I is it okay if I get up in the morning, I don't brush my teeth and don't put a underarm deodorant? Is it okay? Tell me. Integral to trading and ep9 million is a subset of an ep method, right? What is the integral process? But most of the this thing ep9 millions are like an story stock. So if your process is only focused NTRT, MTRT on stocks with real catalyst, you're going to miss all the stories, right? And this is where you have to look at what is gapping up and look at the story. Keep your this is why I made a session said if you want to make money trading from ep9 million, there is a essential requirement, and which is you should suspend your logical mind, right? You can see that here itself, right? And most of these stocks which made big move since the beginning of the year, you had to suspend your a logical thinking in order to get into some of these, right? What's the story here? AHMA or the CBTV, right? Yeah, it's brainless. This is brainless activity, right? This is all brainless activity. If you are going to be using brains, you are not going to get into most of these stocks, right? They will have some really means but again, once you start doing it every day, you know what shitty stock or what. Sometimes they have real catalyst, like there is a psoriasis drug and thing, right? But most of the time it's just yeah, the stocks where people confuse the name of other stock and it goes up 400, 500% or something like that, right? And basically, so first understand the setup. Uh, Convince yourself that if I want to find the biggest winner for any given period, the probability is going to be higher if I focus on EP9 million. If that decision you come to that conclusion, right, then essential part of that setup, you will have to have a NTRT, MTRT SIPs as a process. Essential part of that will require you to have some sort of a news source, right? All decisions will flow from that. Then you will want to have some sort of a reliable news source, because that is integral, right? If you are going to be doing cats, then you need to have some reliable information source which will tell you what is the earning sales, and everything flows in a logical sequence, right? You will also come to a realization if you do this kind of a study that in a lot of these stocks are going to break out with 20%, 25% plus moves. So you will need stops which are wider. That's integral to the setup, right? You cannot escape. Stocks are going to have that kind of a. That's why they make those 800, 900% move, right? That's why then once you understand that, that's why you find them early, right? That is why in order to find them early, because then you can get an earlier entry, you need to do again NTRT, MTRE SIPs. So there are wheels within wheels within wheels, right? Uh, so the scan is not the setup, right? One of the problem a lot of people have is they think scan is the setup, right? But scan is not the setup. The setup is what? The setup is very clearly something which has a high volume, uh, the stocks which make big moves, they have high volume, right? And some story or something like that. And you have to know the stories and what stories work, right? Yeah, a lot of those stocks are going to like make 1 day move, but in 1 day they can make like in 1 day itself they can make so much money. Look at like in a lot of these people who are doing SIPs and all, they can make in 1 day so much money by just like either like the 1 day moves can be more than profitable, right? And this stock from its open to its like it made 114% in 1 day itself, right? So that gives you a total like totality of like the opportunity here. Like in 1 day, this stock from the open made a move of like basically 63%, right? So again, but the point of this meeting is to tell you that look, unless you believe, right, and it is not what I believe or what I do, right? Unless you believe that if I want to catch big moves, right? There is a person who called me, right, and basically and said like, and I want to be in every stock like SNDK. What can I do? And I told like in a 9 million EP. He says, what do you mean? Right? I said, I mean what I say, right? Look, if you want to be in the next SNDK, see where it started its move from. Was there a start of the thing? 9 million EP, right? And basically all this move started with a 9 million EP, right? So you focus on 9 million EP. You are telling me I should not focus on sector and I should not focus on this. I said, hey, I'm not telling you not to focus on sector. You asked me a specific question saying I want to find a big moves like SNDK. I told you how to find them, right? You want to do sectors, you want to do other things. Who am I to stop you, right? It's a free world, right? Let's not even talk about sugar babies. First, let's try and understand 9 million EP, right? And sugar babies is like a different story altogether. I know you're very keen to talk about sugar babies, but like let's get people to understand first thing, right? And first, right? Okay. So if you really want to get this clarity, you have to see with your eyes. You have to see with your eyes. Okay, this is the this thing. Is it true? Last January, right? Go do this, and this is why you need tools like this, right? And basically, so okay, you might think that look, and this happened only in this January, right? So you want to go and look at last January. So you look at like in a last January, take this custom date sort, and where is the January of last year? Right, this was the January of last year, right? So January, and let's put like an approximate dates here, right? And basically, so that is the first day of this thing, and the last day of January was 31st. And so that's the last year's January, right? Where the market went up 2.94%, or SPY went up 2.94%. You saw it, you had a column, and you have to look at that period, right? So you set your uh, chart to that period of January's, so that you don't have the problem of looking at like the other period which will distort your understanding, right? And basically, if you see that period, right? So that is the January period, right? Somewhere around that period. And now let's see if this is true, right? So this is a stock which made a move during January of that period. How did that move start? How did this move start? How did this move start? Right? How did this move start? 9 million EP, right? So it's the same thing every January or any period, right? And if you're going to look at big moves, Oklo, again January, 9 million EP. How is it possible? Tell me. And the beauty of this, what is the beauty of this? Very few people even know this, right? Very few people know this. So that's even better, right? Here, right? Again, you'll find the same thing. Big moves will be all driven by those kind of things. So something which less number of people know in the trading world is a good edge to have, right? That edge is not yet been exploited. Okay, any other questions? Understand things, clarify, re-clarify, write it in your own words, explain it to your dumb boyfriend, explain it to your like a dumb husband, or explain it to your like a girlfriend in simple words, or explain it to your dog. Then you will know. You have to have this understanding in your own word. What is this thing which I'm trying to do? Otherwise, you're just going to be every day have a blank view and just like in a going to be buying something which is on a third or fourth day of a breakout, right? And the weekend is coming, so you have all the time in the world to do that. Okay.
Excuse me, may I
Yes.
have one more question for tonight?
Mm-hmm.
After the ending, Intel have the earnings, so now
Mm-hmm.
it's dropping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it whether we have the correlation as you mentioned, success SOXL? So I see that this trend for the semiconductor is going up and up. Today also many people asking for the SNDK and then Western Digital, this kind of data center related theme is going to change, but they they just didn't drop a lot and have a rebounding today. So it means that this catalyst or this theme is still working, or you think that something is going to change?
You're using a lot of big words, right? And correlations, all these
Sorry,
things, right? And
sorry.
no, I'm not saying that, right? And I
Yeah,
don't have a
because my
setup.
English is not
Not, it's
not
not a
so
question
good.
of your
So
English, right? And I'm just telling you in a very simple thing, right? You look at
yeah,
I don't give a shit about correlations or anything. What you have to trade is an individual stock, whether Intel is going to have a drop based on this news. The fact is that yes, it is likely to go down. So I will just look at shorting Intel, right? And basically, I don't know what is going to happen to the other stock. I don't have any predictive power, right? And I am a very dumb guy. I buy stocks because they show up in 9 million sky. I buy scan. I buy stocks because they are like show up in 4% breakout. I have no understanding what Intel's earnings is going to do on the sector or something. If I had that kind of a understanding, right, I would be running a hedge fund, right? I just like can do simple things. I know that this catalyst is valid for Intel, right? So I'm just going to be focusing on Intel. Now we will tomorrow, if we will find out, right? And if supposing SNDK start showing up, start going down, I can guarantee you 100%, right? The signal to
yeah.
short SNDK is going to come when SNDK shows up in 9 million breakdown. Every single stock which is going to make a big move down, and Intel will
Yeah.
anyway be in 9 million, right? And when was the time to short Oklo? It showed up in your EP 9 million scan, right? So I will react when it shows up in EP 9 million. Can I become like
So
can I spend time and try and understand all these correlations, sectors, and this is going to affect that and that? Yeah, it's possible, but I just don't have the knowledge or skills, and I don't think most retail traders have the knowledge, and even the people I know in industry who do this for a living, who are working in hedge funds and all, uh, they also cannot predict this with certainty. So why am I going to spend my time rather than thinking in terms of setup? Tell me.
understand. So simply is the best, right? So focus on the individual performance for the
Individual
categories.
stock which meets your setup definition. Does Intel meet your setup definition based on NTRT, MTRT? It is up, it is down
Yeah,
in post market, right? So probability is
yeah.
that it might go down. So that's all that is there, right? And basically to that
So
setup,
it
so
means
it
that
will become but most of the time there is another thing which you have to know, right? And what is the other thing that when the stock like Intel is going to gap down tomorrow morning, what is the probability? What is
yeah.
likely to happen?
Okay, so we just based on the fact and the action, right? At that present
No,
moment.
you didn't answer my question. If
Ah,
Intel is
sorry.
going to gap down tomorrow, say 15% or 20%, are you going to be
Yeah.
a seller or are you going to be a buyer of Intel?
So I don't have the confidence even I want to learn it. So I think it's better to short it. But if suddenly drop 15 or 20%, I think it's not a good age for starting my short position, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yes. So you are not sure, like because anything which drops, there are people who
Yeah.
are going to buy it as a buy the gap down, and it will like in a bounce back. So what is the best thing to see what happens on Intel? I would be definitely interested in Intel because there is a catalyst here. There was so much build up on Intel, so it is likely to go down a lot after this whole uh, air has come out of the Intel story. So, but like on the short side, I never short a stock on the first day of a catalyst, right?
Okay.
So I will wait
Okay.
for a delayed reaction. I will see if it gets the highest volume. If it gets the highest volume on the downside tomorrow, that gives me 100% conviction that this is a game-changing catalyst, right? And basically, so if it is a game-changing catalyst, what am I going to do? I'm going to wait for a low-risk entry on the short side and do this. No matter what I do, right? On this particular setup, what is the probability or what is the expected money which I'll make if I spend this all this time and try and short Intel? How much money will I make?
Sorry. You mean that how much I would
How
bet
much
on this?
percentage like and I will make in terms of what is the percentage which I am likely to make on Intel? Tell me.
Maybe I will put 10%.
Yeah, at best 10 or 20%, right? So is
Yeah.
this a asymmetrical risk reward situation which I should get really excited about, or I should get excited about something else which had earnings last night and which is likely to go up 200, 300% on the positive side, then focus on something which is likely to go down 10 to 20%.
Okay. So tight 3 to 5 day consolidation or delay EP will be the one of his for reaction for this kind of sudden news or earning catalyst, right?
Yeah, I mean, uh, the thing is, you have to understand this in terms of like in a really clearly, right? And the point which I'm making is different. You are going in different direction, right? In EP 9 million, which is my primary setup for finding big moves, is my focus long side or is my focus short side? Because the probability on the long side of finding a asymmetrical return of like an 80, 90, 100, 300% is substantially higher on this. So long, 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 right? Yeah, will I take a shot if I find a easy trade? Yes, but that's not my primary setup idea, right?
Okay.
I hope you understand what I'm talking about, right? Because you are new, I think, to this site, so you're a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah, yeah.
confused.
I'm very new. I'm just
Yeah,
from January, the first of the
yeah.
January.
So,
So I joined. So
mhm,
thank you so much for your
mhm.
detail, and I'm sorry for make
No, no, no. You
your
don't have to be
time
sorry.
longer.
That is
Yeah,
how you learn.
yeah,
You have to
yeah,
ask
yeah.
question to learn. I'm just making a point. Primary setup, even on EP 9 million, is what? Long,
Okay.
right? Short, yes. Means 20% is not bad if I can do it with size and all, but uh, my main focus is on the long side, right?
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I just try to make Intel as one of the example to make a question, to make sure my idea is
Hmm. Hmm.
in a correct way
Hmm.
or follow your education today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
No
hope my
problem.
English is acceptable. So
No,
next
English
time I
is not
can
a problem.
talk with you.
It's not like
Yeah,
all of us are immigrant and our English may not be right. That's not the question. The question is you have to look at what is the
yeah.
setup idea. Think in terms of setup, not in terms of English. Think in terms of setup. Where is
Okay.
the big money in the market? The big money is on the long side. Yes, Intel has a negative catalyst and that might lead stocks, semiconductor stocks to go down and all. But if I look at what has happened in the post market, I would be more
Yep.
interested in looking at some of the stocks which are up versus the stocks which are down because the downside is limited, right? But again,
Yeah.
money is money. I would take a short or something which is going to give me 10%, 20% also. But primarily, if you want to make your primary method 9 million EP, focus on the bullish
Yeah.
side, not on the bearish side. Even though you can find money
Yeah.
on the bearish
Thank
side,
you, sir.
bullish is where the money is. Okay,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
okay. I will see you people sometime unless I end up going to Greenland, right? EP 9 million on the long side and story stocks. That's the primary setup, right? EP 9 million, story stocks, long side. And that's where the money is.
Thank you.